Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos. In this video, there are 7 chapters. You may skip ahead using this timeline index. Here is a list of videos you should watch before continuing with this tutorial. The links are in the video description below. Simply scroll down and click on the words Show More and you'll see the full video descriptions containing all the links you require. Let's begin with Chapter 1, Getting You Started in BaseCamp. Firstly, open BaseCamp by doing a search in the Start menu. When prompted to choose an activity profile, select Driving or perhaps Motorcycling. On this screen, you may wish to click Do Not Show on Startup. This will stop the screen from appearing again. A pop-up may appear asking you whether you'd like to send data to your Garmin. You can click either Yes or No. Firstly, you'd like to set up your Tracks4africa map as the map being displayed on your screen. To do this, click on Maps and then select the Tracks4africa map you've purchased. Now, let's set up some basic interface and routing options. To do this, click Edit, then Options. Your measurement unit should be fine. Click the Display tab and then we'll set the tooltip delay to 1 second. This time determines how long you should hover over a feature on the BaseCamp map before it will show any information about that feature. When you scroll down, you'll see an option to change the map font, font style and font size for improved readability. Next, click on Activity Profile and then on the Routing tab. Firstly, you can set your route preference to use faster time or shorter distance. It is, however, recommended that you stick to the faster time setting. You should also untick all avoidances in order for the routing to work correctly. When you're done, click OK to save the settings you've just changed. Next, click on View and then on Toolbars. And here, you can enable all the toolbars you'd like to see. It is recommended that you enable Detail Level, then Edit Features, and Map Products. You can also enable the Select tool from the toolbar menu. This tool can be used to click on the map features to identify and interact with them. You can move tools around the toolbar by clicking and dragging the tool to its desired location. You can turn off the overview map currently in the top right-hand corner by clicking View, Map Views, and then Overview Map. One of the frequently asked questions about BaseCamp is how to show more detail or hidden places on the map. If you've enabled the Detail Level tool, you can search for it in your toolbar and then change it from medium or higher or highest to show all the details. Once you've done this, you'll see that places and features you couldn't previously see are now visible on the map. Let's move on to Chapter 2, where we'll learn to pan and zoom around in BaseCamp. One way to zoom in and out is to use the scroll wheel on your mouse. Roll the wheel upwards for zooming in and downwards for zooming out. You can also zoom in using the control slider in the upper left corner of the map. Another way to zoom is by using the Zoom tool, which can be found in the menu toolbar. Left click will zoom in and right click will zoom out. You can also draw a box around a region to zoom in on it. The second tool is the Pan tool. You can use this tool to pan around the map. Click and drag with this tool activated to move the map for faster panning. You can also use the Overview map, found on View and then Map Views. With the Overview map enabled, you can click on it and drag it around to pan faster than otherwise possible. Lastly, you can also pan around by clicking the arrow buttons in the top left corner of the map. Now let's take a look at Chapter 3, Waypoints and Routes. For a rough indication of distance, you can enable the Measure tool and click along the map. Please note that this tool will only provide you with a straight line distance. You can create a new waypoint by selecting the New Waypoint tool and clicking on the map. To rename this point you've just created, you can right-click on the point in the sidebar and then select Rename. We advise that you prefix all points with a number in the order in which you intend to travel these points. This will make route creation on your GPS an easy task. Another way to rename points is to right-click on the point and then select Open. This will open the Properties window where you can rename the point. You can also edit other properties in this window. For example, you might want to change the display of the marker symbol. To create a route from waypoints, select all the waypoints you'd like to add to the route and then right-click and click Create Route using selected waypoints. To change your route, you can click the Insert tool on the menu toolbar. This tool allows you to add a point to the route without actually creating a new waypoint. You can click between two existing points and then on a place where you'd like the route to pass through. To view the order of your route waypoints, right-click on the route and then select Open. We do not advise using routes on your GPS. Rather, create waypoints and then rename them in the order in which you'd like to travel, and then transfer these points to your GPS and create a route from these points on the GPS. If you delete the route, all points added using the Insert tool will be deleted as well, as they were not saved as waypoints. If you'd like the route on your GPS to pass through these points as well, please save these points as waypoints and transfer them to your GPS. Another way to create a waypoint is to click a listing on the map. Then click the three dots and click Create New Waypoint. You can sort your waypoints and routes by clicking the cog button. You'll have the option to sort by either symbol or name in both ascending and descending order. To select a selection of points, click the first point and then hold Shift and then click the last point you'd like to select. You can also hold down the Control key and click points individually to add or remove them from the selection. Chapter 4: Organizing your data. In BaseCamp, there are two ways to organize your data. The one structure is called a list and the other a list folder. A list can store waypoints and routes, whereas a list folder can only store lists. To create a new list folder for your lists, right-click on My Collection and then on New List Folder. In this example, I'll use list folders for countries and lists for the trips in those countries. All waypoints and routes not yet added to a list will be found under Unlisted Data. You can select waypoints and routes in the Unlisted Data folder and drag them to the lists of your choice. In this case, I've added them to Trip A. To remove waypoints and routes from a list, you can select them and right-click. In this case, the option would be Remove from Trip A. Once you remove points from a list, they will again appear under Unlisted Data. If you select the Delete option, This waypoint or route will be deleted from all lists in BaseCamp. Chapter 5. Finding places in BaseCamp. To view the points of interest in an area, zoom to the area and then click the search tool, followed by More, next to Points of Interest. BaseCamp will only list points close to the center of the screen. To see more points of interest, click on the 3 dots next to Showing Results. You can repeat this to show even more points. You can click and open Find options to customize your search. Say for example, you're looking for camping sites. You can click the drop-down under More Options, scroll down to Lodging, and then under All subcategories, select Campground and RV Park, followed by Search. You can select one of the results and then click the Create a Waypoint at the selected results button. This tool will create a new waypoint at the point of interest you have selected. Chapter 6. Transferring the data to your Garmin GPS. Please ensure that the cable you're using to connect your Garmin to the computer is an authentic data cable, similar to that supplied by Garmin. Otherwise, your computer may not be able to read your Garmin device. Firstly, plug the GPS device into your computer. After you've connected your GPS device to the computer, you'll see the device appearing in BaseCamp. Both the internal storage as well as the SD card will show up if you've inserted an SD card into the device. To transfer the data from the internal storage, right-click on the internal storage and then Send to, followed by the location on your computer. In this case, I'm sending it to trip B. You can also transfer data from your computer to the GPS device. On your computer, select the data, then drag and drop it onto the location on your GPS device. In this case, I have transferred the data to the SD card. Another way to transfer data from the computer to a GPS device is to click on Device and then Send to Device. You'll see 2 options, the first being Send User Data to Device and the second Send Selection to Device. The first option will send the selected folder to the device, and the second option will send your selection of waypoints and routes to the device. Similarly, you can also receive data from the device to your computer. To create a BaseCamp backup, go to File and then click Backup. Now select the file name and click Save to save the file in a known location. Should you ever lose data, you can just click File, Restore, and then restore this backup file. Also, in the File menu, you'll find the Export option. You can use this to export any location data within BaseCamp. There are several available file formats to export. If you are not sure which one to use, just select the GPX format. This one is the most widely used when exporting GPS data. You can share GPS data in this format. Send the GPX file onto someone and that person can import it into their BaseCamp again. Now let's move on to Chapter 7, the final chapter, Practical Trip Planning in BaseCamp. BaseCamp has a great feature called the Trip Planner, which is very easy to use. Say for example, you want to plan a 4-day trip from the Tracks4africa head office in Paarl to the Tankwa-Karoo National Park. Let's go ahead and use this to start your trip planning. Let's just say we don't know the exact dates of the trip, but we do know the number of days. It'll be a 4-day trip and we don't want to travel more than 8 hours a day. That won't be an issue because the driving distance and time from Paarl to Tankwa-Karoo National Park isn't even 8 hours. And it'll be a round trip because we need to get back as well. So let's continue. For the activity profile, we will be driving or motorcycling. As you can see, there are quite a few options, but for Tracks4Africa Maps, it's preferable to select driving or motorcycling. Let's start typing our first waypoint. We will be traveling from the Tracks4Africa head office in Paarl to the Karoo National Park Rodewerf reception. When you start typing, the options will appear. Just scroll down and choose the desired waypoint. Once the desired location has been added, we can start the trip. What will now happen in the background is BaseCamp will plan your route based on the driving preferences. In this case, it's set to fastest time. As you can see, it wants us to drive on the N1, but that's not the most scenic route. You might rather want to go via Ceres. So on day 1, we can add a stop at the Ceres Zipline Adventures. And again, scroll down until you find the desired location and select it. As you can see, we currently leave at 9 AM. Let's make it a bit earlier. We want to have most of the day ahead of us once we arrive. Let's make it 7 AM. And currently, we have a stop of 30 minutes at the Ceres Zipline Adventures. Let's make it at least 2 hours. You can select the layover time as 2 hours. That way, we will know we have enough time for the adventure activity. So now we can see what the route currently looks like. We leave at 7 AM and will arrive around about 8 AM at the Ceres Zipline. The activity may or may not be open, but that's something you have to consider beforehand. We'll have at least 2 hours to spend at the Ceres Zipline, and just after 10 AM according to the plan, we'll need to leave and travel towards Karoo National Park reception, where we should arrive at around 12:20. You can use the slider on the left to actually visualize the entire route with the time you'll be at the specific point. You can see the pin is your vehicle and where you'll be at that time. You can add more waypoints to your route. You can actually search along the route specifically, then you won't be searching other areas further away from the route. As you can see, day 2 and 3 is still open. You can add a few waypoints along those days. You can plan your trip around a national park, but for this video, we'll just show you the basics of route planning. If you're traveling back the same way, day 4 is just day 1 in reverse, except you'll see we haven't added the Ceres Zipline again. So currently, it's still going via the N1 highway. You can decide if you want to change this or not. You can also change the times, but for the purpose of this video, we'll just keep it simple and stick to the current times. So now we have our route plan, but we don't want to transfer it like this to our GPS unit. It's better to instead transfer your waypoints. You can see if we click on day 1, all the waypoints will be displayed, as well as the trip for that day, but we'd rather only use the waypoints. So what we'll do is right-click on My Collection, create a new list to hold our waypoints, and let's call that Karoo Trip. This is essentially the only 3 waypoints we now have. So let's drag and drop this into the Karoo trip, and it will be copied there as well. So now, as advised previously, you'd want to number these points so that you can easily find them when doing the trip planning on your Garmin GPS. So we'll start with point 1 at the Tracks4Africa head office, and for point 2, the series Zipline Adventures. And then our last point would be the Tankwa Karoo National Park Roodewerf reception, so we'll name that point 3. And there we go. You now have your 3 points. You can now plug in your Garmin GPS device to the computer. It'll pop up here. You can drag and drop into the device and it's complete. After you've turned your GPS on, you have to select the Where To icon and then select Favorites in the Favorites menu. Select all favorites and you'll see the points you've uploaded to your Garmin GPS. To start the navigation, select the last point in your route and then select Go. The GPS device will now calculate your route, after which it will display the entire route. As we've only instructed the GPS device to navigate to our destination, we still need to add the series Zipline Adventure waypoint. To add a waypoint, go to the home screen and select Where To, then followed by the favorites icon again. Now select the waypoint you'd like to add, in this case number 2, series Zipline Adventures. Once you've selected it, press Go. You will be prompted with various options. In this case, we can just add it as the next stop. The GPS device will now recalculate your route with your new waypoint added. Lastly, to get an overview of your route, you can select the icon with the 2 flags on the left-hand side. You will now see your entire route displayed on the screen. That concludes our basic training in Garmin BaseCamp. If you're using the older program called MapSource, please be sure to watch our next training video called MapSource Basics. The links to this section are in the video description below.